At the start of the story, two men are on the road, transporting a van loaded with money that belongs to the Fortico company. Fortico is an organization whose main responsibility is to move large amounts of cash for big corporations. But during their journey, a group of supposed laborers blocks their way with a truck. These men are not real laborers at all. They are there to carry out a heist. Before the guards can understand what is happening, the robbers point guns at them, and one of the attackers begins cutting open the van's door. Once the door is sliced through, the robbers drag the guards out and immediately start collecting all the cash. After stealing everything, they brutally kill both guards and also murder a passerby who witnessed the scene. Keep this passerby in mind, because he will be important later in the film. The story then jumps to a few months later, where a man named Patrick arrives for an interview at Fortico for a security position. Here, we meet Jerry, the manager of Fortico, who reviews Patrick's application and discovers that Patrick previously worked with a European agency. This impresses Jerry because the company urgently needs skilled and trained people. When Jerry asks about his marital life, Patrick explains that he is divorced and currently single. This makes Jerry even more satisfied, since the job is dangerous, and someone with no family is considered less burdened. Soon after, a man named Bullet arrives to meet Patrick. Bullet explains that Patrick must pass several tests and must achieve at least a 70% score to qualify. Patrick's testing begins, including running, shooting, cash handling, truck driving, and many other assessments. By the end of all the tests, Patrick scores exactly 70%, which makes him eligible for the job. Bullet gives Patrick the nickname H. He then introduces H to the rest of the team. H is handed his weapons and prepared to start working the same day. Meanwhile, we see Dave and his partner John getting ready to make a money delivery. Bullet was supposed to join them, but instead he replaces John and brings H along for the task. Dave warns H by saying, "You have no idea how dangerous this job really is." H calmly replies, "You're right, I actually don't know how terrifying it can get." The three of them then leave in a cash truck. Dave drives the truck, H sits beside him, and Bullet stays in the back. Dave tells H, "I was supposed to be the one driving the truck that got robbed a few months ago, but I was sick that day and couldn't go. That's the only reason I'm still alive." H hears this and begins to suspect Dave's story. H and Bullet then go inside a building, complete their delivery, and return safely to the office. Their truck undergoes a strict inspection, as Fortico has extremely tight security protocols. Afterward, Bullet leads H and the whole team into a room where they usually relax and hang out after finishing their shifts. Before entering, everyone had to scan their ID cards and hang them on the board near the door. People walked in one after another, and then Bullet called H inside. While pretending to place his own card, H carefully studied the IDs on the board, as if he was looking for a specific person. The scene shifts to the room where the staff were talking about H. Some of them started teasing John, saying H had just joined and already replaced him. John used to be Dave's previous partner. Hearing their comments, John tried to start a conversation with H, but H ignored him completely and told him to leave. This left John feeling disappointed and upset. The next day, the same three men headed out in a cash truck for another delivery. They stopped in a busy area, and Bullet stepped out alone with the money bags to complete the drop. When Bullet didn't return after a long time, Dave tried to reach him through the walkie-talkie, but received no reply. A moment later, someone yelled for help. That's when they realized Bullet had been kidnapped. The kidnappers demanded every bag of cash from the truck in exchange for Bullet's life. If they refused, they would kill him. Dave panicked and reminded H that company rules required them to leave immediately. H refused to abandon Bullet. He insisted that they had to save their partner. He told Dave to get away if he wanted, but he would stay and rescue Bullet. With no other option, Dave agreed to help. They drove to the location the kidnappers had mentioned. There, their truck was trapped by vehicles in front and behind. A robber appeared with Bullet held at gunpoint and warned them not to attempt anything risky. He ordered them to open the truck and load all the money into the kidnapper's car. One by one, he started placing the bags on the car's rear deck. He intentionally dropped one bag, causing the man inside the car to shout at him. At that moment, H acted like he dropped a bag and suddenly fired a single shot, killing the robber instantly. He then took down the rest of the kidnappers with precise headshots. His aim was flawless and not a single bullet went off target. Before eliminating the last robber, H demanded to know who they were working for. When they refused to answer, Dave shot them on the spot. This moment revealed how dangerous and skilled H truly was. H then removed the masks of the dead robbers one by one, but still didn't find the person he was searching for. Because H had taken down the attackers with such accuracy, two officers later questioned him. They asked how his shooting had improved so much when his training scores were average. H replied that during training, there was no real danger, but this time, even a small mistake could have cost all three of them their lives. That's why I shot them so precisely. The officers then show H a recording of the robbery that happened 6 months earlier and ask, "Doesn't today's incident seem connected to that case?" H denies it, but his expression makes it clear that he knows more than he admits. When H leaves the room, Jerry stops him and says, "After an event this serious, our company policy requires you to stay off field duty for 1 month. You will only handle office tasks. You won't be assigned any work involving cash or deliveries, because situations like this can cause stress that affects performance." H laughs and asks, "Do you really think I'm stressed?" At that moment, the owner of Fortico arrives to meet H. He thanks H for protecting their employee. The owner tells Jerry, "We need people like him. Someone with this level of skill can keep our assets safe. So I want you to allow him to continue field operations." The scene then shifts to the same two officers speaking with an FBI agent named King. They tell King, "In today's robbery, H killed all the attackers himself. Something doesn't feel right, and I'm worried the money stored at Fortico is not safe." But King replies, "Let H continue. I don't believe he's after money. I think he's here for a different reason." We then see H meeting a young woman who brings him information on every Fortico employee, including the only female security guard, Denner. She also hands him a report. It contains an autopsy summary describing the examinations performed on a particular victim in a murder case. This reveals that H has joined the company with a specific mission. The next day, Bullet and H are shown transporting cash in a truck. A group of robbers attacks them by covering the windows with darkened panels and filling the truck with tear gas. Bullet is forced out of the truck and H steps out moments later with a cloth covering his face. But when H removes the cloth, the robbers see his face and immediately run away in fear. This leaves us wondering who H truly is. The company head is shocked when he learns the attackers fled without taking any money. He praises H and says the company needs people with his abilities. Jerry, however, becomes suspicious of H. He cannot understand why the robbers would hand the money back and escape. We then see Denner, who is thoroughly impressed by H's actions. She offers him a drink. Meanwhile, Bullet tells Dave about what happened during the attack. Bullet says, "I'm sure something strange is going on here. The robbers ran away after seeing H's face, reacting as if they had encountered a predator." Bullet says he believes H is not an ordinary man. We then see H lying in a room with Denner. Denner is asleep, but H stays fully alert. After some time, H asks Denner to bring him a cloth. Suddenly, H pulls a gun on him and asks, "Where did you get all that money?" Denner refuses to answer. H fires near him to scare him. Terrified, Denner confesses that he stole the money from the office for his retirement. He insists this was his first and last mistake and that he will never repeat it. H calms down and warns him that if anyone finds out about this incident, both he and his family will be in danger. To explain the past, the story moves to a scene from 5 months earlier. H is shown driving with his son Doug. H receives a call from a man named Mike. This is the same Mike who ran away after seeing H earlier. Mike was the leader of his own group. He tells H that a serious problem has come up. The person responsible for sharing the location of a cash truck has met with a bike accident and cannot complete the task. H says he is on vacation with his son and cannot help right now. Mike replies that no one else in the group is available and H only needs to check the truck's direction. He tells H to go near the Fortico building and inform whether the truck turns left or right. Reluctantly, H agrees and drives there with Doug. Outside the company, H tells his son to grab something to eat and watch the truck. She then calls Mike and informs him about the truck's direction. He hangs up and goes to get food for Doug. At this moment, the film's opening robbery unfolds. The same attackers ambush the cash truck and kill the guards. Doug arrives at the scene and is confronted by the robbers, who order him to step out of the car. Doug calls his father, but H is speaking to someone else and cannot hear him. Doug steps out, having no other choice. Just then, H returns with food and watches the robbers shoot Doug right in front of him. H runs toward them, but someone shoots him and he collapses. This reveals that the two passers-by shot in the opening scene were Doug and H. H had seen the face of one of the attackers. A scene is shown 3 weeks after the incident. H is in the hospital. The doctor tells him, "You were hit by 6 bullets. We performed 3 surgeries to remove them. You lost a lot of blood, but you survived." Later, H is seen sitting quietly with his wife. She decides to divorce him, believing that he is responsible for their son's death. H cannot say anything because he is broken with grief himself. From this moment, H becomes consumed by the fire of revenge for his son's death. We then see Agent King sitting in a car with H. Agent King actually used to work for H. Agent King tells H, "I don't know who killed your son, but I've given you information about every major gangster in this city. Now handle this in your own way." She then calls the key members of his gang. King expresses his sorrow over the loss of H's son. H says, "I want to know who is responsible for my son's death." 2 people working under him reply, "We're trying our best to find those robbers, but there's still no information. No one can confirm who carried out that robbery." H tells them, "It feels like you're not even trying to find them. I don't care how you do it, but I want every detail about that crew immediately." H's men then begin hunting down robbers across the area one by one. Among them, a man named A is captured and taken to H's hideout for interrogation. He refuses to reveal anything. Seeing no other choice, H's men bring A's wife to pressure him. Terrified, A finally admits that a group called the Jackson Brothers planned a major robbery that day. After hearing this, H sets out to find the gang and starts eliminating every member connected to them. Patrick, driven by revenge for his son's death, becomes completely unstable. These events start to worry Mike, as the business is on the verge of collapsing because of Patrick's actions. Mike tells Patrick to take a break. Understanding the situation, Patrick says, "Fine, Fine, I'll step back for a few days. I'm going to London for a break. You handle the business until I return. Next, we see the same woman who earlier brought Patrick an autopsy report. This woman is actually Christy. Patrick begins to suspect that Vertigo Security might be behind the robbery. So he asks Christy to erase all his criminal records and create a new identity for him so he can join Vertigo as a security guard. We then see a scene where Patrick arrives at Vertigo to start working. The rest of the story from here is already known. This is where we finally understand Patrick's real purpose for joining Vertigo. Also, the autopsy report Christy gave Patrick belonged to Patrick's son, Doug. In the next scene, we see all the members of the Jackson brothers gang looking extremely stressed. They have been hiding for several days. They haven't been able to carry out any robberies, which has made their situation worse. When the members ask their leader Jackson to plan another robbery, he refuses. He explains that they had killed some people earlier, and now the police are hunting for them. If they rob again, they will expose themselves to even more danger. It is also revealed that every member of the gang once served in the military, but now they have turned to robbery for money. Here, we also see the man whose face Patrick had previously seen. His name is Gene. Next, we see the robbery Gene was planning. He aimed to steal money from companies whose main business was cash delivery. They discovered that a truck belonging to Vertigo was transporting around $1 million. This was the reason they targeted that truck on that day. During this robbery, Gene also killed Patrick's son. 5 months later, Jackson called a meeting with all his team members. He shared details of a new heist plan. Jackson said they could steal approximately $160 million in this operation. Black Friday was approaching, a holiday when millions of dollars accumulate in Vertigo. A few days later, H and Bullet were returning to the office after a delivery. Bullet confessed to H, "I used to provide all this truck information to the Jackson brothers gang. I was already part of their group. I've been working in this company for years and used to share truck locations with them. In return, I received a percentage." Bullet then asked H to help him with the operation. H agreed, although he did not fully know who he was really dealing with. In fact, H had been working for the company all along to gather this intelligence. Bullet then took the cash truck and drove with H to Jackson's hideout. Inside the truck, the gang members were hiding. They wore bulletproof vests and helmets and were armed with weapons. Bullet drove the truck into the company. The robbers inside took all the employees hostage. One employee managed to trigger the emergency alarm, alerting the police to the robbery. The alarm caught the robbers off guard. The company's security guards used this opportunity to open fire on them. However, every member of Jackson's team was wearing high-quality armor. They were unaffected and were able to shoot and kill the security guards easily. Meanwhile, one of the robbers took H hostage. H quickly killed the robber and wore his uniform to avoid identification. At the same time, Bullet revealed his true identity and brutally killed Denner and Dave. Only Gene, Bullet, and Jackson survived the initial robbery. Jackson was seriously injured in the attack. Gene then crashed a truck carrying Jackson and Bullet into a police car and drove them to a garage. Inside, there were hidden tunnels. Jackson realized that Gene intended to kill him to take all the money. Jackson tried to draw his gun to defend himself, but Gene anticipated this and killed Jackson by slitting his throat. Gene and Bullet then rode their ATV to the tunnel's exit. They had already parked a car there. Gene and Bullet began loading all the stolen money into the trunk. As soon as they finished, Bullet pulled out a gun to shoot Gene, but Bullet kills him before he can act. Gene then quickly exits the tunnel. We then see Jean returning to his house to shower and get some drinks. At that moment, a phone rings from the stolen money. This phone had been deliberately hidden in the cash by H so he could trace Gene's location. When Gene answers the phone, he hears H's voice. However, H is already waiting for Gene in his room. H tells Gene, "The boy you killed 5 months ago was my son." H then shows Gene the autopsy report of his son. The report reveals that Doug's gallbladder ruptured, causing his death. Enraged, H shoots Gene in the gallbladder. Gene suffers immense pain and dies on the spot. H then leaves the house. On his way, H meets his agent King. He gives King all the stolen money. He asks King to destroy all evidence related to the case. A car is already waiting for Patrick. Patrick gets into the car and drives away. The movie ends at this point.